Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. Now, I have a really exciting guest for you today. His name is Wayne Stanley, and he is Bowe Digital's Chief Inspiration Officer, leading a thriving marketing agency acclaimed for website design, email marketing, and social media prowess. Now, under his dynamic leadership, Bowe Digital earned consecutive Best Places to Work in Indiana awards. Now, that's saying something, right? In 2023, Wayne received the prestigious October Research Exemplary Leadership Award at the NS3 and was named 2023 Marketing Leader by Housing Wire. His influence spans the title industry, bolstered by his role as part owner of Title Success. Wayne's background includes impactful stints in the US Senate and ALTA, affirming his status as a luminary in marketing and real estate. Oh my goodness, Wayne, I am super excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me, Kay. It's great to be here.
Now, we did have a little chat behind the scenes, right? And what you've already told me, just a little bit of snippets that you've told me, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be an epic episode. Now, before we go into the whole, email marketing, social media, websites, I would love for you to explain to our listeners a little bit about what your journey looked like, because we all know building a business doesn't happen overnight.
Exactly. I didn't always know what this would look like, but I knew from a young age that I wanted to own my own business. On our website, I've got pictures of my grandparents and of their home when I was a kid, because I used to go around their house and I would take all of their little belongings and put it on the couch and create a little store, and I would have them buy back their own things.
Oh, no way. That's fun.
And they would do it. They would entice me and do it on my behalf. And so I always knew that that was something that I wanted to do. And in college, I studied public relations and advertising. It was something that I was passionate about. I felt like I was good at it. And through a variety of experiences in Washington, D.C. after college, I worked for a United States senator and then for a real estate trade association. I was able to build a network that I didn't really know I was building. And I think that's something that a lot of people, when they're starting out on their small business journey, they don't realize the network that they've built through previous experiences. And so when I started thinking more about and hearing more from people that I really need help with my small business, does marketing really have to be that hard? All of that sort of thing, I really just don't understand, or I don't have time. They said, they needed a solution. And so the more I started putting together Bowe Digital, the pieces of that, I realized that I had a huge network that I could lean on for this. And then from there, Bowe Digital was born. It was born just about 7 years ago, and we work with companies all across the United States at this point and beyond on budgets of any shape and size. And so it's been a really exciting journey, but I know we were talking a little bit about some of the pitfalls that happen when you're doing this. And I think one of the things for me that I struggled with, again, I didn't value that network enough to begin with. And so it was important to me. I thought it was important to me when I started the business to not make it about me. I didn't name it Wayne Stanley Media. I didn't name it Stanley Digital or anything like that. I named it Bowe Digital after my grandparents.
Oh.
I really worked for those first couple of years to not make it Wayne centric. And I realized after that I really was missing an opportunity, because my network existed because they appreciated Wayne first. They experienced me and my skill sets and things like that before I had the business. And so figuring out that balance between what you're trying to build and the network that I have and the trust that people have in me personally was a struggle at first. And that's not the same for every business. If you're selling, widgets or have a specific product, but I think especially for a service-based organization like ours, it was something that I definitely tripped over at the beginning and could have done better, and now lean on all the time.
Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. There's so many things I want to ask you, Wayne. But firstly, you did mention to me off camera, right, that what you're doing right now, website design, email marketing, social media, is something that you actually studied in college at the very, very beginning stages when really people didn't know about social media. So, what got you interested in social media? Because I know you also mentioned people thought you were mad to do this.
Yes, I will say that when I got hired for working for United States Senator to help with his social media presence, which at the time, this was in 2007, 2008, we barely had Facebook and Twitter. Um,
Yeah.
I tell our interns now we were signing up for Gmail as the very first users during that time period. Like it's hard to think about at this point because everybody has one. Now it's very customary for parents when their children are born to reserve a Gmail address for them. And
Yeah.
that just wasn't a thing back then. So just to set this perspective of where we were. And so, yes, my parents thought I was a little crazy for thinking that I could get paid to do social media. But it was a really great experience to be there at the beginning of all of that to try to figure out how to do it differently. And there were certainly, and there still are, people that are doing this stuff in very different and big ways. But I felt like I was able to get a foothold in really practical ways to use it differently. And a good example of this is the senator that I worked for. He was big into renewable energy and trying to figure out a way to be smarter with what we were doing with our energy in the United States. And he had introduced an energy bill for many years. And I said, to get some more splash this year, what if we are the first legislator to ever introduce a bill live on Facebook? Nobody was really going live on Facebook at that time. You had to use an app and a separate camera and all kinds of stuff. Now you can do it right through the app, but back then it wasn't a thing. And so we did a big press conference and it was all live on Facebook. And you had to be on Facebook to see him introduce this legislation. And it got a ton of press. And it was the start of me. I push my team today to think about this all the time of we don't always have to move things, 180 degrees for success. If we can shift our viewpoint even 10 degrees one way or another, you can see really big results. And that was from that very first experience, something that I learned and that I try to bring to what I do every day.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, I'm curious. I'm curious because your parents thought that you're absolutely saying that you could actually get paid to do social media. What are their thoughts now?
Well, I would say that they've come around because my mother actually works full time for Bowe Digital.
Oh,
Yeah, she is
that's
one of
awesome.
we have 21 full-time employees and she is one of them. But they came around, I would say, very, very quickly in all of that because the world changed. So, I mean, the adoption of social media was so fast. I think that everybody saw it. And when I moved on from the Senate into another role with a real estate trade association, I think that's when they really saw like, oh, this is his career. It may encompass other things in marketing and things like that, but social will always be the foundation of that.
Oh, absolutely. I love that fact that you brought mum into the equation as well. That's awesome.
True
Now,
family business.
absolutely, absolutely. And so, you are an expert around website designing, around social media, around email marketing. Now, we have people listening at all different levels, startups, people that are experts or midway through in the business. For those people that are just starting up, what would you say they should prioritize first? Is it building the website? Is it being on social media? Or is it building their email list?
The perfect answer would be to balance all three. But I would say figure out what's going to be most impactful for your customer base.
Mm,
Again, going back to that network and thinking about that, where are you starting on the path? Do you have a network of people that are likely to convert to customers right away? If so, your website is probably more important. If
yeah.
you have to do education and sort of network building for people to understand what your product or service is before they even buy it, list building for your email services is probably more important. The social side of things is more complicated than ever, and we could have a whole other symposium on that topic. But there's a lot happening with cookies right now, which is the way that traditionally we were able to track people with paid advertising on social media and otherwise. And between the wars with Apple and Samsung and Google and Facebook and all this stuff, it's gotten more complicated than ever. So it's very hard to target. So to me, when you're first starting out, especially, find the path of least resistance. And these days, most people would probably agree with me that building that list and owning your own data for your company is really important. And so figuring out that list for your emails and then staying consistent there is probably what I would say is number one.
I love that. Yeah, so building your own database, your email list, I would say is pretty high up there in priority as well. And so when we're looking at building an email list, is there any platform that you would suggest is the best platform to use to build up an email list?
Oh, there are so many, and there are new ones every single day. I mean, in the United States, the two big ones are probably MailChimp and Constant Contact. They are extremely easy to use, and I know you've got listeners all over the place. So I would encourage you to test. Most of them offer free test periods, and you want to figure out what works best for you as a user experience internally, on the back end. What do you understand? What does it do for your team? What do you need it to do for you? Ask all the questions, figure out what you're paying for. If I were to pay for this product, what's the max I can get from it? And then beyond the free trial kind of stuff, also thinking about sending emails externally. Send it to your family as you're starting out, whoever it is. If you don't have that list yet, send it to someone externally to get feedback. A lot of universities and colleges will have student groups that would love to be sort of test subjects for that kind of stuff to give you feedback and criticism. And so do that because you want to make sure that as your emails are then being delivered, that there's usability in them for your customers or for your audience as well. And so those are the two that we use the most for my company. But there are so many niche, there are some that are being built now for specific industries even, and things like that. But it's so hard. So many of my customers are in the financial services industry, and there's email security galore. And so it can be very tricky. So test and don't be afraid to switch teams. I think that people don't realize that it's okay to switch email systems, or especially depending on your business, you may use different deliverability systems for different customer bases based on what you need. So make it work for you.
I love that. I love that. Now, I told you when it comes to switching platforms, right? Because I think a lot of people in the first startup, they do use MailChimp. Even in the UK, I know there's a lot of people that use MailChimp, right? And then as they progress, they move on to other platforms and better platforms, and then eventually have a CRM that does all the email for you and has that in there as well, which is awesome. And so when it comes to, all right, having social media, building your email list, right? What is the best way or the best, I guess, pathway to ensuring that you are building your email list as you're building your business and making sure that your visibility is out there as well? Because people don't know you, they're not going to be able to come to you.
Right. I think two separate things. One, stay consistent in what you're doing.
Wow.
A lot of people burn out on content and they feel like, oh, am I bugging people? Am I, I don't really know how to stay consistent.
Mm.
And I can touch on that here in a second. But so I think staying consistent, and I think a big mistake people make when they're trying to build that list is they don't ask. You have to consistently make sure that you are collecting email addresses at and probably these days, probably mobile numbers, because eventually you're going to be texting or want to text, and you're gonna completely miss out if you haven't been you're gonna have to do the same process. So if anybody's listening and they have gone through the painful process of building email lists before, if you weren't collecting text numbers, that's the next thing, and it's going to be very similar. But collecting that at every opportunity that you can, because it's the privacy laws and consumer rights are more important than ever. And it's important that people have given permission. A lot, we get asked all the time about buying lists. You can certainly buy lists smart in a smart way. We have a data division that allows us to find lists of people, but we do it in a responsible way. It's never, if somebody sells you a list of 5 or 10,000 contacts at once, you're probably going to get flagged and get shut down. We do it in a way that's in the several hundreds at a time, so that it's more responsible. But I think that organically, you've got to have it in your email signature, you've got to have it on your website, you got to have it in what you're doing on social media. Ebooks are a great way to have gated content. So if you've got stuff that's easy that people would want to have, where they're able to put in their email address before they can download the PDF or whatever it is, that's a really great way to build that list as well. But you've got to have it at every opportunity asking for their information so that you can get back to them in the future.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So don't limit yourself. Do it in every different way possible, right?
Yeah,
Is what you're saying. I
yeah.
love that. I love that. Now, you mentioned about, staying consistent. Now, this is something, and this, that people struggle with on a daily basis. So, how do you keep consistent with content without burning out?
I say this all the time, especially as you're starting out. Some people have the luxury when they start out of they think when the people hear the word startup, they think venture capitalists, they think family money or angel investors or who knows what it is. But I think they somehow they if they hear the word startup, they think more like Silicon Valley here in the US or that there's somebody behind this. But in so many cases for small businesses that are starting up, that's not the case. And so I remind people that if you're not going to promote your business, who is? There's no one else that's going to do this. And so you have to make it just as important as other main functions of your business. You wouldn't say, "Oh, I didn't have time this week to process payroll." You wouldn't say, "I didn't have time this month to pay rent." It has to be that level of importance to you. And it's just not for a lot of people. And I think that's a big reason that people find themselves tripping when they first start. But it has to be one of the primary functions of your business. Once you've adopted that kind of mindset, then I think it's important to just stay consistent in communicating with your customers. It doesn't have to be mind blowing. Nobody thinks that you're, Steven Spielberg or something like that. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful videos on the planet. It doesn't have to be the most thought provoking. Sometimes just being an aggregator of information, it can be that you're bringing information to other people. It doesn't have to be that you have developed this really great idea that you want to share. But I also think that people then feel like, well, I'm saying the same thing all the time. And so one of the ways we kind of get through that rut is I always recommend, and my team does this, we use writing prompt books to try and get creative and think differently. So, if you think back to your time in school, you might have had a writing prompt book of explain this problem to a pirate. If we were in the world of dinosaurs, how would your business look? Things like that, where like you just don't think about it in the same way. So, like if you are in real estate and I said, give me your unique selling proposition in a fortune cookie. Immediately, it shifts your mindset from, I'm not going to give you my whole mission statement or something. I have to give you like a one-liner that's fairly clever and succinct, right? Like thinking about that kind of stuff in that way, I think can help. And it also, we're not normally thinking about how to talk about what we do to a pirate. We're not going to use words like swashbuckling and walking the plank and the deep sea and whatever else, but it allows us to be more creative in what we're doing. And that may not be for everyone. That may be a little too like frou-frou marketing for some folks, but it can get you in the process of thinking differently about what you're doing to get out of that rut of feeling like I'm okay, I'm trying to stay consistent, but I'm saying the same thing all the time. So go to your local bookstore, buy a writing prompt book. It can be from 40 years ago, even. The stuff is still great to set that in motion to think creatively.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay. So this is something completely different. I didn't know about the writing prompt books, and I'm sure a lot of listeners here are unaware of it as well, right? So that is awesome. Now, what are some of the other, I guess, trip hazards or things that people don't think about, challenges that you have come across with your clients?
Well, for us, we're a fully remote organization.
Mhm.
And so we don't have a brick and mortar anywhere. We haven't from the very beginning. It wasn't a COVID thing for us. It was, I knew that, again, back to startups with no money, it was just me. And so I didn't want the overhead of an office. I knew that I could have talent from anywhere in the world, and I knew that I could have a customer base from anywhere in the world. But for many that are in this place now of having fully remote organizations, we had a lot of people that didn't understand what that meant. And we lost business sometimes because people would say, well, you don't have a brick and mortar. They sort of thought that maybe we weren't of the same caliber of other businesses.
Yeah.
And so, I would always say, well, it's unlikely that you were going to come see me anyway. In my line of work, we come to see you. And so I think thinking about that is definitely one that was a pitfall for us. And then I think in general with customers, what we've learned and what we try to do is we try to be extremely transparent in what we're doing. If we make a change that we know will work, we try to explain that in a way that makes sense to them. We don't just send over data. We don't just send over reports. We make sure that we explain what they're seeing and what they're doing. And then the phrase that I use a lot is that we want to be indispensable to our customers. And sometimes that means that we do things that aren't always in black and white in our services.
Mhm.
We actually call our customers partners because we want to be an extension of their team. We don't want it to be, well, you paid for these five deliverables every month, so here's your five deliverables. Their success is our success. And so um, that blurred line makes it hard sometimes for our customers to know, well, what am I really supposed to be getting? What's my, if I'm paying for this, what am I getting out of it? Because it's in the marketing space, it's not always immediate results, right? So for us, that's something else that communication and transparency became very important to make sure that they understood the why of everything we were doing. Because I worked with marketing agencies in the past that would just send a bill and say, this is all the stuff we did last month. And,
Mhm.
that's it. And I didn't want to be that for people, especially since we were working with and are working with small businesses, super small businesses sometimes. They make budget decisions weekly, sometimes hourly. So we don't have the luxury of working for 6 months and sending an invoice and saying, well, it didn't go great this 6 months, but the next 6 months, we're really going to kill it. So we didn't have that and don't have that luxury. So being super transparent is important and brings its own, load of questions and concerns with customers. But that's what I would say there.
Oh my goodness. So I love that. And I'm feeling the love. I'm feeling your heart right now because what I'm hearing from you is that the way you treat your clients, they're like family, right?
Mhm.
You treat your clients the way you'll treat your mother, is what I'm
Exactly.
hearing, right? And you're taking care of them. You customize their needs, right, around them and what they've done, rather than saying, this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what you do, pick. Right?
Exactly.
And I love that about you and your business. That is awesome. And unfortunately, there's so many businesses that need to do exactly what you're doing, but don't. Right.
And
And
it
this
takes
is
time. It's not easy.
no, it's not. I mean, the fact that you've got awards for leadership, right? That speaks volumes. And in fact, I want to speak about that, right? Leadership, this is huge. Just because you're a business owner, people think, oh, they're going to be great at leadership. That isn't the case, right? And it takes a lot of work, a lot of time and energy to make sure that you build a business, a company, a team, right, that actually supports you. So, how did you even go about doing that from day one?
I've been very lucky over the years to have wonderful mentors and examples for managers, bosses, and owners. I've also, unfortunately, had my fair share of those that I would want to be the antithesis of their leadership style. And so I've tried to bring that from the very beginning. My overall stance with our team internally is that I know that people work to live. They don't live to work. And I think that as we thought about our culture and what I wanted for Bowe Digital moving into the future was just as we wanted to be indispensable for our customers, we also wanted to be that for our team internally. And so I don't really believe in work-life balance because it's never balanced these days because things happen. But I talk more about work-life integration, and that's why we're a remote company. It's why we operate on a 4-day work week. We have unlimited PTO for our team, trying to be as flexible as possible. And when we interview and when we onboard new people, we talk a lot about how we have ultimate flexibility and freedom at Bowe Digital, but that means that we also immediately expect ultimate trust and responsibility because I think that for so many owners, that's a big headache for them. And that's where you get into micromanaging and all of that stuff is that you don't trust from day one. And I think that you have to. And I talk about, people have workplace trauma all the time. And so they come here and they're sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop for about 6 months. And they're like, well, what do you mean you trust me to just do it? And it's not a way for us to get out of training or anything like that. We love to train, we do it. It's not here you started, go run, good luck. But it's really from a foundational standpoint, we felt like you were going to be a great fit for this team. We feel like you know what the job is, and we trust you to do that. So we're not going to check up every 5 seconds. We're not going to have you do, 15-minute incremental reports like so many agencies do and all this kind of stuff. That's part of the reason we don't bill by the hour for our customers because we don't do that internally. So that was really important to me as we set it up to be if it was a relaxed and professional and responsible atmosphere for our team, that was only going to spill over into the experience for our customers.
Oh, that is amazing. Oh my goodness. Now, Wayne, I know at this point, people listening are thinking, how do I get hold of Wayne, right? So if they want to work with you, if they want to learn more about you, get on a call with you even possibly, where would they go?
Sure, I would love to connect with anybody. I love brainstorming. That's most of my days. Even if we're not working together, it's just, hey, can I pick your brain about this? So again, building that network, I would love to chat. You can find my information at bowedigital.com. That's BOWE digital.com. And also on LinkedIn, if you search Wayne Stanley, you should be able to find me there.
Oh, fantastic. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for coming to the show, Wayne. So many golden nuggets in such a short amount of time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This was wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much. And I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.